My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates.
Doth mother know you weareth her drapes?
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
It's the Al Travis Show, and we have Senator Susan Kent come on once a week. And we call it Clean Up in Aisle 9 or Yeah But, because we agree on almost nothing, and it's kind of fun, and I love having her on. Senator, how are you?
I am doing well today, Al. Thank you. How are you?
I'm not in a good place, and I say this, it intrigues me because I don't like to think much about my feelings. But
I have a list right here.
I'm going to have to audit that list at some point. But I'm talking with some friends, golfers. I think it was on Monday, and we're just chatting about the news of the day and what was going on, and things hit me. I didn't feel right, whatever that feeling is. So driving home, I'm trying to figure it out. And what we were talking about, if we can start here, the news was 84.2% of our children graduated high school. It is the most like ever in the history of history. And even if you get down to it, in every category as we rank people, race, social, economic, and every way that we can measure it, it's up. Governor's out touting it. Good for him. I get it. That's a great number. But one of my golf guys said, didn't I hear on your show about 6 months ago that no one in 11th grade could read or do math? I said, well, it wasn't nobody. I think it was 50%, but his point was well taken. So was the beer. That being said, that was what was grinding my gears as I was driving home. And what I think I figured out is I'm mad that we do this to those children. That when you get out and you get handed the diploma and we throw a big party and you have walking tacos and cake and all the rest, for about half of those, it's ceremonial at best. We haven't set them up for success is my point. And that's bothered me quite a little bit. Your thoughts on 84% graduated, but they all didn't go out and get personal tutors to get up to the snuff. Your thoughts?
Well, I worked on the education committees for 10 years. I got into politics and governing because of my involvement as a busybody parent harassing my school board on a regular basis. So, these are
I can see that. That isn't far off your resume, that's for sure. Okay, fair enough. That's a compliment.
But so point being, this is an issue I care deeply about and have paid attention to over the years. And really one of the most interesting parts of that experience was when I was on the higher education committee for my first 4 years in office, because that is a place where, it all sort of comes together. Because, you're listening to the professionals talking about the students that are coming in, and then you have big time conversations about we as a society and the workforce that we need. And it's led to some really good understanding and conversations. And, back in the day, because I think it was last week we established that you wanted to go back to your version of the 1950s and everything. I
do. Well, 60s,
and
early,
women
late
would keep their clothes on, right?
Yes. And which, by the way, shocked my wife. You said what? I know. She congratulated me when that came up, by the way, at the Supreme Court. Hey, did you hear? Breasts can be free. Congratulations. Like, what? Yeah. Okay. Anyway, we're going backwards.
But historically, and I mean, for an awful lot of children did not go to school.
Yeah.
Poverty. And certainly kids with special needs. I mean, we have evolved as a society, and I hope you and I can agree that 100%. There are a lot of children who would have been institutionalized.
Absolutely.
50, 60, 70 years ago, who now live with their families, get good support and care. They go to our schools because of appropriate state and federal laws. But it's like, these kids are going to live their best lives because of that support. They are never going to go to Harvard Law School. It's like, so you have to look, and then you have kids who have, other sorts of really troubling backgrounds and experiences. Maybe it's because of their families. Maybe it's, their own mental health issues, whatever it is. There's all sorts of things that go on with our kids, and public schools take all of them, and so when we think about that, we have to recognize those blanket generalizations about reading and writing at grade level.
No.
You have to think about the population that you're
Let me ask
right?
you this, because I 100% agree. And two things. One is for folks who don't remember or aren't old enough. It had to been in the 70s because I was in elementary school. We had a room for those kids, the special kids. They sat in a room and basically people didn't let them eat the glue, and that was like their entire educational career. I knew that was wrong when I was in like 5 or 6. What is that? Why is that? So we don't do that, and that is wonderful. But if I'm not mistaken, I don't think that's the part of the 85% that didn't graduate, because they do as much as possible integrate them in the classroom.
I'm talking about the, what percentage of students taking the various standardized tests read at grade level and all that sort of stuff. So those kids are in those numbers.
I don't disagree because some people will max out at just such and such. That's all you're going to get. I understand that. And I have no problem. I've said this with Lang and Putnam today. I think you then have to, if you're going to be honest with everybody, there has to be a diploma means what? If you don't have those mental issues, if you are capable, then, and you get through the program, then we expect X. And if you do that, here's your diploma. If you do, go ahead.
Oh, and I was just going to say, I was still in Texas when George Bush started No Child Left Behind, right? And, and that was a huge emphasis on standardized testing and, pay or play kind of stuff. And, we then realized that, if you cut kids off from their artistic or sports activities, they may just not come to school at all. So, you're not really getting the goal, the results you want if you enact some of these, punishments. So the reason I'm bringing this up is, because all the kids are in school, we have to meet them where they are. We set these really high standards. We're sort of living through that right now. There's a whole conversation about high school math, and truly most kids only need to get to a certain level of math in high school for the jobs that the overwhelming majority of us would,
because everybody's covering a computer in their pocket. Everybody has a computer in their pocket. I don't disagree.
But you don't need to be able to do advanced algebra in 99% of the jobs in America, right? Never mind calculus and all that stuff, right? So, but we put those high standards on there because we want to compete globally at the highest levels, and we want to be able to say we have the highest standards. But not every other country has every kid in the classrooms, So I mean, we are trying to do a whole bunch of things, and it makes it hard to make these sweeping generalizations. Do we need to keep doing better? Absolutely. And I know here's how conversations happen every day.
Here's how we do better. I don't know how 15% didn't graduate. Did they just leave school? Because I'm getting the impression the number, what you do doesn't matter. Just sit around there, get your diploma. Why'd those 15% leave?
Yeah. I've been close enough to it to know. I mean, you got kids who have, who are, it's the classic sort of dropout that maybe it's mental health issues. It's any number of things. And by the way, our public schools run alternative learning centers to help students who are not able to go through the regular program, So, I mean, it's like we're trying to help as many kids as possible grow up with as much tools and resources as they can get.
Would you go with me? Would you go with me with evaluations of that? And it could be social, mental, it can be anything you want. Let's sit down early in a young child's life and put them on track, if maybe that's the right word. Some people aren't just going to get everything done. Socially, mentally, they're not. Fine.
By the age of 17, 18, right. Yes.
Yeah. So, fine, I have no problem. Some are more artistic. Great. Guess what? You want to just do the artistics and sports. Here's the minimum we have to have. You're going to have to go in society and be able to read the road signs. Yeah. I mean, we got a minimum.
If you go into a political discussion about we're gonna accept the minimum from any of our students, you've just walked in and kicked a big old hornet's nest. Because that's my point. And
I'm not done kicking yet. I want 12-month year-round school. Not for everybody.
Oh, I'm good with that. But
I'm saying,
let me introduce you to the agriculture industry and the tourism industry.
No,
and they'll have some conversations with you about it.
The other 3 months are catch-up months. If you're getting done with 8th grade and your 8th grade teachers are saying, in social studies and in this you seem lacking or whatever, you've got 3 months to go to 9th grade. Let's go to school. It doesn't have to be, I presume everybody's not, so it's not full pack set of teachers, but teachers that will then get you to 9th grade knowing you're there. Because the one that gets me, and I can't understand it, I think it's 3rd grade. I think I read this somewhere. If you aren't reading up to 3rd grade level by 3rd grade, it's a domino effect of not catching up, because the
that is
science,
absolutely true. Yeah,
because the science questions, the social study questions, they're all written now in paragraph form, and you're screwed.
The saying is that up till 3rd grade, you're learning to read, and from 3rd grade on, you're reading to learn. And if you can't read effectively, that's a problem. And there've been, we've redone our literacy approach just in the past few years. I mean, there's a lot of steps that have been taken, but you can't do something for a 7-year-old today and expect it to affect tomorrow's 17-year-old. No,
I understand. But I'm back to, I don't even know if I've met a kid. I mean, back in our day, I love doing that. We put all these special kids in one room. We also held people back. I can name a couple of kids in 1st grade that didn't go to 2nd with us. Rightfully so. I'm looking back now. I think we've got to get to a point where, guess what, Mom and Dad? Al's not going to 4th grade till we catch him up. He's got to come in for the summer. I'm looking to pay for it. But we want him to be the point where social studies questions are different, and I'm okay with paying for it, because the way it's working, it's not working, and we got to fix it.
And a lot of versions of those programs are absolutely there, know, and so it just people don't publicize it because, let's be clear, we all remember the kids that got left behind, and so did they. I mean, it leaves a mark on a kid, and that's one of the reasons that schools have tried a slightly different approach to catch kids up, and
it's
hard.
I'm behind on a break. We're going to come back, because I'm going to catch me up, and I'm going to leave this in your lap because you were there for it. I probably didn't care this much about all of this stuff until COVID hit. And we realized that we stopped school, we stopped kids, and socially the little ones didn't grow because they weren't with other kids. They had a mask on. We did all this stuff. And I said on the radio, because it was 5 years ago, I was there, I said, we have to stop the world until we can catch those kids back up. Because if we don't, they'll always be behind. And that, now 5 years later, if you're in 5th grade, you're getting to graduation, and I don't think we ever gave them the catch-up. I'll talk about it with Senator Susan Kent right after this.
If it's your turn to host a game, Grandpa's Barbecue suggests you try something different. Put out the perfect barbecue flavor of Grandpa's Barbecue. Add it to your ribs, dip the meatballs, or drench your wings in the original flavor of Grandpa's Barbecue. It isn't too hot or spicy, fruity or smoky or whatever. Grandpa's Barbecue. Available in select stores and online at grandpasbarbecueshop.com.
There are many ways to explore Alexandria. Some like to experience the outdoors and all the fun winter in Minnesota can provide. Pick your favorite way to get in touch with nature. Others like to explore downtown in the warm comfort of a boutique or gathered around a table with friends. You can do all of that or relax and do nothing at all. Come explore Alexandria. Start planning at explorealex.com.
as in alligator. L also in alligator. But it's not alligator. It's the Al Travis Show.
I've got her. It's Senator Susan Kent on with us, and she's been agreeing with me on everything today, so that's kind of helping my attitude. One last thing, if I may, and tell me I'm not wrong here. So we get kids that graduate from high school, and we throw these gatherings in the garage or at some place, and you got to buy food for every human they've ever met. They send out, my wife is a teacher, she gets invites from people she hasn't taught in 10 years, let alone friends. But, it's worth a shot making a couple of bucks. I get it. Now, my kids are graduating college this year, one last week and one this week. And what do you do for that? Yeah, you take them to dinner. You say, congratulations, well to go. I think the custom is so backwards right now. I expected my kids to get through high school. I'm very proud that they got through college. You're shaking your head. Am I right? Why are we not throwing the party this weekend for my kids? Oh, we did it in high school. Am I missing something?
It's a really good question. So I did not grow up in Minnesota, and this whole garage party, high school graduation party in the garage was kind of new to me. This is and I don't know if it's just a generational thing, but, we had, celebrations, but it tended to be as a class, and that was kind of it. And maybe there were like little girls' lunches and stuff like that, and, whatever. But so I have a sort of a different perspective on it. My take on it, having had our own version of it, which was more restrained by the graduates' request, the ones that I've been to, and I've been to obviously a bunch of them, I think it's a really cool sort of celebration. It's more of a launching into adulthood kind of a thing. It's not just, you got out of high school, it's,
but the next question is, where are you going to school? Oh, that's a party school. I mean, adulthood. Come on. I know. Well,
and I have to say, we started out that last segment, me talking about being on the higher ed committee, because it's that transition period, and I relate to that so well myself. I mean, it's that struggle. What am I going to be when I grow up? What am I going to study? Whatever. Are you feeling pressured by family or society or your friends to do X, Y, and Z, but you feel more like A, B, and C? And, certainly those brains are still not quite fully baked yet.
Baked is an interesting term when we went to college. Okay.
And so, I personally think we all need to sort of relax a little bit, and this notion of treating it all as a race, and you've got to reach certain milestones by a specific point, is not healthy. I think, and going back to your point about COVID, we need to teach kids how to pursue what they're going to do, and to do it in a way that's balanced and helps them, live independently and successfully, however they define it. That's a life lesson.
All right. I don't think we thought you were going to talk about elementary school and all this in the first half hour, but we'll get you back in and talk about what's going on, things in your mind. I kind of ran this one because I was mad about the school thing. I thank you for taking time to go through that with me.
Always.
I don't know if I feel any better, but then again, when you only have a couple of feelings, it's a gray area.
I'm up to 7. We're
going to go through the list someday, because I don't believe it. I believe I have 3. 1, I don't care, happy and sad. That's a variation of it.
These are the ones I've quoted you on. So
okay, we'll be back. It's Senator Susan Kent.